Bum 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 bum. The Peter Shit Show. Bum 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 bum. I want you guys to continue praying for me. I am at the end of my rope with how I live my life here in the Phoenix area. I just don't belong here. Every day I see multiple signs that Phoenix is not welcoming to me. But at the same time, a lot is going on. And the good news is that I have been putting together a little bit of a war chest. And so I could potentially move first and think about my career second. I prefer that order, actually, because I'll get to it in a second. But I don't belong here. Even something as simple as trying to ask for directions or asking about events. Maybe one of these days, I'll go to one of these events with a hidden body cam of some sort so I can show you guys. I'll probably blur out the faces before I show you guys. But you can sense that everybody has... It's almost like I'm invisible. Actually, it almost is, because sometimes I'll even try to talk to these people, and it's like my voice has been muted out for some... Have you ever gone on a Zoom meeting and accidentally disconnected your microphone, right? Or even your video, and you're talking away, you're waving away, you're writing on a whiteboard, and you didn't realize that your mics and your cameras are cut off. That's how I feel like when I go out in public. I'm not joking. It's very akin to that. And it's not a one-time occurrence. It's 50% of the time, at least. And I'm glad. I want you guys to pray for me for the rest of this weekend, because I'm going to spend the rest of this weekend looking at potential places that I can move to next. I have a few places in mind. I'll go over them in a second. The other thing I, Peter, dislike about Phoenix is obviously the hot weather. I kind of figured it out a little bit. The next place that I move, obviously, every place is probably going to have extreme weather in one direction or the other, or maybe both, right? But one thing I could do is what I did this year, right? Try to check out, go somewhere during the extreme weather. I find things a lot tolerable now this year that I missed most of the hot weather. Obviously, it created a lot of discontinuity in my work, and it created a little bit of drama when I got back. That's something that I'll have to resolve. But I did avoid most of the hot weather, plus the hostility. Actually, I didn't, because when I got back, the first thing that welcomed me into the Phoenix area was hostility revolving around hot weather. Earlier this week, I gotta be careful. Sometimes I speak my mind too freely. A friend of mine got COVID, and I begged him to give me the COVID because now that the weather is nicer, I want to get it done with. I don't like having hot weather and COVID at the same time, because I don't always have a support apparatus to take care of me. Hot weather and COVID, and I often still have to go out to get groceries and go to the... I live in an apartment where we have to go to a public laundry room, and a lot of times that gives me a lot of drama. And so I'd rather get COVID when the weather is nicer. And I told that to my friend, and he thought I was crazy. I should have been a little bit more specific with... I sometimes get very upset about these subjects. But this is not an experience I had in Taiwan. When I was in Taiwan, did I get my heart broken? Was there bad weather? Yeah, of course there was. But, see, earlier today, I went to, after my upset with the asking for directions, I went to Whole Foods. You guys have seen. I've done a lot of Peter Dislike shows there. And one of the employees spooked me out. I was already... My mind was already under the weather with the directions and getting lost and upsets about Phoenix and all of that. And after I left the Whole Foods, I called them to complain about the employee, and I told the manager, I'm like, you realize in a public area, when you interact with somebody, you don't know if they just got back from the doctor and learned they had cancer. You don't know if their grandparent just passed away, or maybe they just had a heartbreak. You don't know if they just any number of things, right? Maybe you should start with hello instead of, excuse me, can you turn down your phone, or whatever it was, right? I mean, sure, you could ask about turning down the phone, but it really spooked me out. I am autistic. And this is not an experience I had in Taiwan. And when I asked my friend why this is the case, my friend explained that over in Taiwan, when they were in 7th or 8th grade health class, they learned all about autism and how to behave to be in a way that would be inclusive of them, right? That's why I didn't feel like I was ghosted when I went to a meetup group in Taiwan, at least not to the extent that I was in the United States, right? And meanwhile, here in the United States, instead of teaching to be inclusive, we teach all these memes about how taking Tylenol might cause autism, about, what was it, C-sections or circumcision might contribute to autism. Oh, come on! Okay, maybe those things do cause autism, but at the same time, a lot of great things in our world have been invented or discovered by autistics. Why don't we be inclusive of them? Maybe we'll have great technology if we do, right? Anyway. But I am thinking about leaving. I'm so glad I have some resources. I can move first. One of the big challenges I ran into when I moved to Phoenix was that I looked for work first, and people thought didn't take me seriously, obviously. And when I moved here, I ran into a lot of drama because I had to figure out so many things, right? Just like I had to figure out how to deal with COVID during a heat wave and all that. Now, it really bugs me that some people they speak from privilege. Oh, you should do this, you should do that. Yeah, it's easy for you that you have for a neurotypical to think that way, right? I really despise. I can't talk to people for advice anymore because the privilege will just bug me. And that was not an experience I had. The other thing I like about Taiwan, and maybe I won't feel this way when I'm earning a Taiwanese income, is that I was able to afford to go out to eat more. And there's nothing like being able to practice some of these things by going to my favorite restaurant and interacting. Because when I go to a restaurant, first of all, I gotta tell the staff about my food allergies, right? That already forces me to do something, right? And oftentimes I get a chance to interact with people. I really love, here in the United States, Five Guys is one of the few fast food restaurants I could eat at. They don't have any additives in their fries. I usually get a medium fry. And I obviously can't afford to do that very regularly, but I still do. I used to teach at Grand Canyon University. I would eat at the dining halls sometimes. I tried to get a job at the dining halls because they give you free food. I also tried to get a job at the Five Guys as well. Not because I'm starving or anything, but because I want to be able to sit down and say hello to the table next to me, right? And actually, I may think about applying for those things again. Why don't you also pray for that? But, so Taiwan is on my mind. My girlfriend is moving back to Vietnam. She had studied in Taiwan and took her first job there, but her parents are elderly and she may move back. I could definitely afford to eat out practically every meal if I moved to Vietnam, right? I mean, just the return on my investments, I probably could do that without even touching my nest egg. Right? I probably have to keep working in Vietnam, but I could enjoy my lifestyle just on the return on investment, right? So that would be nice. I also thought about, I love Mary Curry, so both of her homes, right? If I moved to her childhood home, I could afford to eat out all the time. If I moved to the home where she won her Nobel Prize, I can't afford to do that, but you know what? They're a lot more progressive and understanding of, I probably would not run into barriers like the ones I ran into today on the road or when I go to those meetup groups, right? So a different and plus no cars. Driving is a big stressor. When I thought about the criteria for my next home, obviously cost of living. I want to be able to socialize more. Can't do that here. Actually, can't do that in most of the United States, but definitely not in a big city. Actually, now looking back at it, when I was living in Seattle, here's a trick question. When I was living in Seattle, the thing is, Seattle's weather is so calm. I could live in my car like practically all year. So I actually had more money for social activities. It's kind of weird. And here in Phoenix, you can't do that because it gets to be 100 degrees and above for 5-6 months out of the year, right? And very dry, obviously. I also thought about the weather, of course. So I actually lately I've been checking the weather and going out to see how I feel, and I've kind of figured out that 85 is about as high as I like, which happens to be the melting point of gallium. So if the weather's hot enough that gallium melts outside, I don't like that, right? So that's become kind of an unofficial hot weather meter, right? One of these days I'm gonna have to build a thermometer out of gallium as a tribute to my time at Phoenix, right? Because gallium is a liquid like half the year here at Phoenix. It really could work, right? You could just have a summer thermometer. During the winter time, it will just be frozen, and the summer it will actually measure what. I gotta build one. I gotta build one as a tribute to how hot it got here, right? And I used to live in Rochester, New York. To give you an idea how cold it got during the wintertime in Rochester, New York. In New York State, you can return your water bottles to the store to get your deposit back. You have to deposit 5 cents per bottle when you buy them. And sometimes the cap was on the bottle, right? And you took it outside. Instantly, all the bottles shriveled up in an audible way, actually. Crunch! As soon as you walked out the door. That's how cold it got, right? But weather was the other concern. That Taiwan is tolerable. Actually, Taiwan's not really that tolerable, but it has really good infrastructure. You hardly have to spend a lot of time outdoors no matter where you go, right? For starters, you don't have to drive. And also, there's a lot less... Actually, another reason I love Seattle was that Phoenix has a lot of what we call hostile architecture. A lot of places are deliberately made in a way to be hostile to stay at. Right, so you go to a laundromat here in Phoenix, a lot of places, they don't have electrical outlets or Wi-Fi, and it just becomes very hostile to go to. There was a lot less of that in Seattle. I mean, I don't know about today. It's been 3 years since I was there. But even toward the end of my time there, which was post-COVID, there was a lot less of that, right? In Taiwan, there's almost none of that because people actually see utility in gathering with each other and connecting with others, right? So the hot weather didn't bother me nearly. You guys remember my last day in Taiwan, I actually shot a little bit of a sign outside of 7-Eleven. They were like, feel free to come in, even if you don't buy any. Remember that? Oh, that's the Taiwanese way, right? Can you imagine if somebody tried to open a 7-Eleven with that sign here in Phoenix? It would instantly be rioting and all sorts of crap would go on inside the store, right? Drug dealing, prostitution maybe, and definitely shoplifting, right? We can't enjoy good stuff here without... Actually, I was just at a grocery store and my favorite food was sold out, and it's been sold out for a couple days, and the one of the employees looked on his computer and discovered that they supposedly should have had like 10-12 packages. They were shoplifted, and he couldn't zero it out to make them order more. And apparently they have this policy that if somebody shoplifts something, they kind of penalize everybody by not reordering it for some time because they don't want to encourage the person to just keep coming back and shoplifting more, right? And definitely not the attitude we had in Taiwan, right? This is the Peter Dislike, the Peter Shit Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Shit Show. Bum 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 bum.